Welcome to Moose Plays, everyone. I'm the Liquor Moose, and today we will be going over my draft analysis for Season 2 of the UPA D-League, the Universal Pokemon Association Development League. And yeah, I just decided to join another draft league. I was looking for another competitive one, and luckily for me, the admins of UPA allowed me to join in on the fun this season. So I guess thank you to Ice Demon Gray, Ben from GPC, Mondo Cool, and River, who are the admins, as well as Noah, aka No Pun Intended, and Troy, formerly known as the Megaane Madman, also from GPC, as they are the D-League coordinators this season. But yeah, so they let me join in on the fun. I'm really happy to be here, and yeah, before we get into like the bulk of the video, though, I would like to say that this actually is not Jesus, I can't talk right now. This is actually not an upload required league. So I am uploading because I think this will be a lot of fun to upload with this league. But if there's ever a point where I get like overwhelmed with stuff, like right now I'm still on 6-day work mandation at work. And I know this league will continue into when I start school in September. So, and then as well, as of recording, we have note that soon we will get news on details for the next season of GPC. So that kind of leads towards that it's going to start up soon, but who knows? So basically, the point of me saying all this is that if I get overwhelmed with stuff, I probably will stop the uploads for this league, only because it is not upload required. But for now, I'm going to have some fun with it. And yeah, so let's get into the meat of the video, starting with talking about the UPA as a league itself. And once again, this is another points-based draft, but with a slightly higher budget than GPC. We will have 120 points to draft from. And the cap is a little bit different as well. So in GPC, the highest number of points you can spend on a Pokemon is 19. Here it is 18. So some Pokemon are like quote unquote slightly cheaper as comparative to some of as to what they were in GPC, I guess. Like Lando T was 19 points in GPC. It's only 18 points here. Like that kind of stuff. And then I guess everything goes down. Some of the stuff actually moved up, but that's beside the point. Z rules, again, similar to how GPC worked, but we have 30 points instead of 25, which is a lot of points in my opinion. Like that is a lot of points for deciding Z captains, and we'll get. I mean, like with 25, you really only get like one good one and one like okay one, but with 30, you are pretty much able to get two good ones, really. But yeah, other than that, there's not too much to say about this. Oh, since this is the D-League as well, there actually is promotion and relegation between the D-League and the main league. Basically, the winner of the D-League gets promoted, loser of main league automatically gets relegated, and then runner-up of D-League, 15th spot in main league play for a spot in main league, and then same thing with the 3rd place D-League, 14th place in main. But yeah, so let's... With that out of the way, I think it's time to start looking at my actual draft. Now, looking at my draft position, this was a 12-man draft, by the way, and I got placed 6th overall, right smack in the middle. So automatically, I was just like, great, like literally the worst spot to be in. Drafting in the middle sucks, and yeah, at the beginning it didn't fare very well. So going into round one, going into the draft in general, I did not have a plan, because I decided to myself that I'm going to stop making plans for drafts, because there's just too many times where I just get sniped way too badly, and it's always on Pokemon that are like way too crucial for my draft plan to work out. So I just decided instead I'm going to have this checklist, and then I'll basically decide like time of draft, what I want to draft, and then I will draft around it. So the draft starts, draft day's here, and I decide to myself, okay, I finally decide I'm going to draft Kyurem Black Starmie as my main core, and lo and behold, Kyurem gets taken to 3rd overall. So I'm like, okay, well, new plan. Let's try Zygarde 50. That's a pretty no drawback play. Nope, literally the pick right before me, Zygarde 50 got taken. So I was like, oh my god. So I was pretty bamboozled at that point. But yeah, so I decided to take something that I have never tried before, something that looked interesting, and honestly something that could probably just win games on its own if left like improperly unchecked, and that is Mega Gallade. Now, Mega Gallade is just this gigantic balance fat breaker that honestly, if you let it get Swords Dance into close combat or bulk up into Drain Punch, then like the game could just very well be over. This thing takes advantage of fat, and let me tell you, looking at some of the drafts that happened, there's a lot of fat teams in this league, and I think Mega Gallade is going to have a field day with some of them. And yeah, that speed stat I think was the big thing. Like the speed stat combined with the breaking ability is just insane on Mega Gallade. Like I said, this thing can basically just win games on its own. So I'm really excited to use this and to try to draft a team around it, and that's why you're here to see it. So the main thing with Gallade was, like I said, teams don't want to play fat against it. And so with that in mind, a lot of teams are going to try to play offensively around it. So my next couple of picks were planned to basically punish offensive Pokemon from trying to counter my Mega Gallade. So basically the first part of this couple of picks of trying to punish offensive Mons is my second pick, Tornadus Therian. This is another thing that I've tried in standard play, and I really liked it, and that could only mean that it's much better in draft format. I mean, the genies are much better in draft than they are in standard play, just because 4 move slot syndrome is not really a thing in draft, so their large move pools get taken into great effect during draft play. I mean, like, there's not too much to say about Tornadus T, because like everyone who plays draft knows what this thing does. It has fast U-turn, which when they try to send in the bulk on the Tornadus T, I can U-turn out into my Mega Gallade to take advantage of. It gets Regenerator, so it's really annoying to kill, and then its coverage is huge. And yeah, I'm really going to enjoy using Tornadus Therian. Now, the reason why I picked this one first, as far as the pairing to punish offensive Pokemon, is because the next pick I wanted, in all honesty, was Zeraora. If you know me, you know, like, if you've been around my channel long enough, you know that I set a very high bar for my fast electric types. Of course, there was this new one, so new toy syndrome was in effect, so I really wanted to try it, and like its speed was just insane, and I really wanted it, but unfortunately it got sniped. And yeah, basically the reason I went with Tornadus first was because Tornadus is slightly more unique. The stuff that it offers you, it can't really be offered by anything else in the game. Whereas, for all intents and purposes, Zeraora is just a fast electric type. Even though I want that one, realistically I could grab any fast electric type in its spot to like basically fill its role. So we'll see that later on. But looking at the next round of the draft, I realized that the dragons and the fairies are absolutely going like hotcakes at this point in the draft. So I felt like I could wait on my fairy, but I really did not want to take a low tier dragon. And if I didn't take a dragon now, there was like basically what was going to be left over was not that great. So I needed to take an opportunity to grab a really good dragon now. And the one I decided to grab is again something that I've used in standard play, but not in draft, and I think has much better potential in draft format, and that is Hydreigon. Like, this thing is just a monster. Like, it can do so many things. It can be bulky, but obviously its offensive sets are its bread and butter. And yeah, like, it's unfortunate that my dark type on my team unfortunately cannot pursue trap for my Mega Gallade, but this thing still does punish psychic types. Even if they switch out and I can't pursue trap, I can always U-turn out into whatever I need to for the match. And yeah, I'm really happy to see what Hydreigon can bring to the table. And yeah, again, not too much to say. I mean, it's a dragon. If you're around, like, if you've been around draft long enough, you know what most of these Pokemon can do. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, so I'm really glad to get Hydreigon. And now, in round 4, just like with the previous round where fairies and dragons are starting to go like hotcakes, there are like almost no top tier steel types left. I say almost because I was fortunate enough that the one I was looking at did not get sniped. And this is something I have used in draft before, and it's just, it was too reliable and by far the best steel type left on the board at the time that I had to pick it up now. Otherwise, I would basically be left with bare bones steel types, so I decided to pick up Skarmory. This thing is just, there are so many mons in the game that would be huge threats to other teams, and you just have a Skarmory and it's fine. Like the big ones that come to mind, like Tapu Bulu is a huge threat normally. Tyranitar is a huge threat normally. What else? Mamoswine is a huge threat normally. Like, there are so many Pokemon that just put immense pressure on certain teams, and like Skarmory just sits in front of them basically, and they have a very hard time breaking them. Add on top of that, this thing is just one of the most reliable hazard setters and removers in the game. Especially seeing that like I actually have like at this point removal down, but Skarmory was actually my first rocker on this team, and that was a pretty big note as well for me picking up Skarmory. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really glad to have Skarmory back. I think it's going to put in tons of work this season, and yeah, again, not too much to say about Skarmory because everyone should know what it does at this point. It's just really annoying to kill. So now, round 5 comes along, and yeah, now I think I need my fast electric type now, because like I said, I have a high bar for them. I really don't want to have to take a budget one. Even though in my opinion this one is kind of budget, I know a lot of people say that it isn't, but I disagree. I think this is absolutely a budget fast electric type, but it is definitely the best one. And I had to pick this one strictly because of the speed, and I am very happy that I'm going to finally get to use it, because it's one that everyone always takes and is on their radars, and I just never get to take it because I usually take a different fast electric type instead. So I finally decided that I'm going to use Jolteon for this season. And yeah, I mean, like I said, there's not too much to say about this. Like, Jolteon, it is just like, it's always on everyone's radars on when it's going to go in a draft, because fast electric types are just that good. And Jolteon is not the most... It's basically like Megaane Electric. It's not the most complicated mon to use, but what it does very, very good. Not as good as Megaane Electric. It's slightly slower and a lot less powerful, but it will still get the job done for the 9 points that I spent on this. And yeah, I'm really happy to use this. Like I said, with this and Torn T, I think I'll be able to punish offensive play pretty well with the two in combination. Would have been a little bit better with Zeraora, but it is what it is. I will happily take Jolteon. And now going into the next pick, other than Gallade, I don't really have a lot of stuff to take advantage of Fat. And even then, Gallade really only takes advantage of Fat when you set up on them. And that's fine and all, but right now in my PDL run, I have this huge problem where I just don't have any immediate power on my team pretty much. So I wanted to pick up something with immediate power to take out Wolf, which will as well also give me, I would say, a pretty good offensive pairing with it and Jolteon. So I decided to pick up the big bunny himself. Diggersby is coming to the Toronto Razor Leafs, and yeah, this thing just filled out everything I needed. I needed a ground type. Like, I was fine with getting a low tier ground type, that's normally what I get, but having Diggersby is completely fine. It gives me a normal type, so Ghost Spam isn't going to be a thing against me. And yeah, this thing just hits insanely hard. It's actually stupid. Like, a Choice Banded Diggersby, it just like claims a kill pretty much every time it comes in. It's actually nuts how powerful this thing is. And yeah, again, not too much to say about Diggersby. Like, again, it's not the most it's not the most complicated mon to use, but what it does, it's just very, very good at it. So on top of that too, I pretty much took one of Diggersby's best checks off the board in Skarmory. Like I said, like I was talking about before, Diggersby is another one of those Pokemon that could be huge threats to a team, and you just have a Skarmory and it's fine. But yeah, so I'm really going to be excited to use Diggersby this time around, and yeah, like I expect this thing to put in a lot of work for my team. So now we're more than halfway through this draft, and as you can see, I actually have not started my Fire Water Grass Core yet, so I need to get on top of that. Starting with my bulky water, because that's arguably the most important part of the Fire Water Grass Core, in my opinion. My first my first choice in this slot would have been Vaporeon, because it does Wish Pass, and more importantly, it gets a slow Baton Pass. So that way, if you throw up a Wish, Vaporeon can take the hit, and then you can Baton Pass into whatever you want to heal, instead of having to basically rely on whatever you're switching in, taking a hit first. But unfortunately, that got taken. But that was fine, because there was something else in the same point bracket that I was also looking at, and that is Alomomola. Now, this thing does seem a little bit passive, but look at that HP stat. It is absolutely massive. It passes insanely large wishes. And on top of that, also forms a Regenerator Core with my Tornadus, which was another reason that I was fine with Vaporeon getting taken, because Aloe getting the Regenerator along with the Torn is hopefully going to make for some grindy games that my opponent will be on the losing end of. Let's just say that. Yeah, honestly, other than, I don't expect Aloe to be, again, the most complicated mon, but I think what it's going to do for my team, it's going to do very, very well. But yeah, so again, not too much to say about Alomomola, Jesus. But yeah. So, continuing on my hopeful quest for completing my Fire, Water, Grass core, it's time to grab my Fire type, because out of those 3 parts, the Fire, Water, Grass core, almost everyone has their Grass type already, and there's actually quite a few teams that were still missing their Fire type. So I knew, for plans that I wanted later in the draft, I knew I had to get the Fire type I wanted. So I wanted to get it now, even if it does seem a little bit early for this pick. And ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna try this once again. We are taking Magmortar for this season. Hopefully, we don't have to drop it before even using it. I mean, I explained it in my GPC draft analysis. I think this thing is very underrated. It has an insane move pool for really what it is, and decent Z capability, and again, it has actually respectable special bulk. So being an Assault Vest user is definitely not out of the question. And yeah, not too much to say about Magmortar. I think it actually does have a very good mixed move pool. So being mixed attacking, Magmortar does make sense in my opinion, and I wouldn't doubt that I'm going to use it at some point. Yeah, I really like Magmortar, and what on paper anyways, but hopefully it can take what I believe is skill on paper and apply it to the battlefield. So, going into round 9, basically I already knew what my last 2 picks were going to be, because in case you haven't noticed at this point in the draft, I'm still missing 2 key components to most drafts. I still don't have my Fairy type, and I still don't have my Grass type. And literally at this point, I was basically unsnipeable, because every single team had a Fairy type and every single team had a Grass type. So I was gonna save those 2 picks for last and basically grab the other thing that I really wanted, because there was really only with the 2 specific Pokemon I was looking at, there was really only one Pokemon that I wanted, or at least the points would allow me to get. So I just wanted to secure that pick first, as I could always work around one of the other ones getting sniped, even though I think it's highly unlikely that they do. So basically we're I don't know, maybe it's just a theme for me building teams, but at this point in the draft, my team does not switch into Fairy particularly well. Skarmory does, because it resists and it gets reliable recovery, but honestly, other than that, you don't want to rely on one Pokemon to be a check to a specific type of attack every single game, especially not a mon like Skarmory that usually gets heavily pressured by just general physical offensive threats, and then to have taking Fairy hits on top of that isn't always going to be the greatest. So I wanted something that could switch into Fairy decently well, and I decided to grab Muck in that spot. No, not Alolan Muck, this is regular Cantonian Muck. I think it seems underrated. Unfortunately, the 2 biggest things that Alolan Muck has going for it, Knockoff and Pursuit, Kanto Muck does not get those. Unfortunately, those are literally the 2 best aspects of Alolan Muck, and Muck just doesn't get them. But yeah, it still does get priority in Shadow Sneak. It still does get Poison Touch, so its Poison Jabs still do have a 60% chance to poison. Unfortunately, not the greatest abilities. Other than that, Stench literally does nothing. And, well, actually, it might cause flinching. I don't know. But anyways, and then Sticky Hold, which seems good in a meta that's filled with knockoff, but then you realize that knockoff is always like max power on them, and then it's not so great anymore. But yeah, honestly, like I don't see Muck coming to too many games, but honestly, the games that it does show up in, I think it's gonna put in a lot of work, and I think it like the thing with my low tier picks is I want to pick low tier mons that I see myself bringing to quite a few games, like more than one basically. And I can definitely see myself bringing Muck to a few games. Definitely more than one game I think Muck will show up, and I think it's going to put in the work when it does show up. I think it's really good. It looks good on paper anyways. It looks bulky. I'm sure it'll appreciate the wish passing from Alamamala. And yeah, that's Muck. Again, not too much to say. It's a grounded poison type, absorbs T-Spikes, and I'm fine with this. But yeah, so now we are in the last two picks. And like I said, I'm still missing a fairy and a grass type, and basically I want to take the cheaper one first because style points, you take the quote-unquote big thing last. But yeah, as far as the fairies left, again, like I said at the beginning, like in round 2, the fairies, like the top tier fairies, are going like hotcakes. So there was like minimal left, plus with the point investment that I had, and with the other mon that I had in mind, there was really only one fairy that fit the mold that I needed, and that was Diancie. This thing, I think, will form like it'll be another good piece into my already pretty potent defensive core on my team, I want to say. And even then, like 100 attacks is like 100 attacking stats is nothing to scoff at, especially when it can legitimately run like a mixed move pool and then just like minus speed nature or something like that. Moonblast from this thing are going to hit hard, Diamond Storm and Power Gem from this thing are going to hit hard, and it'll take a bunch of decent hits. Again, no reliable recovery, kind of similar to how I had Registeel in GPC, but I think it's still going to be able to take a lot of hits. Unfortunately, its HP stat is rather low, but that means Alamamala's Wish Passing is basically going to heal it up to full every time. Literally, Alamamala has 115 more base HP than Diancie. That is ridiculous. Anyways, again, not too much to say about Diancie. It's a fairy type. It's a lower tier fairy type, but I think it's gonna do just fine in that role. And now going into not the final round of the draft, but the final round for me, because I usually aim for 11 mons in point-based drafts. And yeah, you're looking at my team and you're thinking like, Brandon, where's your arrow switch in? This is a meta where 2 Zygardes are running around rampant. You need an arrow switch in, and obviously I don't have my grass type yet, which is what I'm going for now. I'll be honest, I knew I wanted this thing at like round 4, but with everything else that I wanted to draft, like it was more likely that those are gonna go than this Pokemon, because this is a Pokemon that just tends to sit there. On top of that, even if this Pokemon did get sniped, there were tons of other grass types that I would have been fine picking up and using, but luckily this thing stayed, and I am so happy to be picking up Celebi as my final pick. Obviously, the big reason this usually sits there and people don't want to draft it's the same thing with Hoopa Unbound. It's that 4x U-turn weakness, a move that like almost every offensive Pokemon gets, and it's going to be running almost 100% of the time if it gets it. But Celebi is like way tankier on the physical side than Hoopa is, so it can more easily take the U-turns. Obviously it doesn't really want to, but this thing is like extremely versatile. Like not as much as Mew, but I would say as far as versatility goes, I would put it on the same level as Jirachi, in all honesty. It's just Jirachi has a better typing and I want to say slightly better move pool, but yeah. Celebi, I think, is going to be a really key member of the Toronto Razor Leafs this season. I think it's going to put in tons of work, and yeah, that, like, I really want to say, like, there's not too much to say about Celebi, but I think there's a lot of, like, untouched potential with Celebi. Like, a lot of people, when they draft it, they're just like, okay, Stealth Rock's U-turn, and that's pretty, like, that's about the extent. And, like, while that's fine, I think there's a lot of unexplored potential with Celebi that hopefully I'm going to be able to try out, but I need to think about the best sets for the matches instead of trying to get fancy with Celebi instead. But yeah, so that is the end of the draft. Now the only thing to look over is my Z users. So like I said, 30 points for the UPA D-League, and that's just so many Z points. Like, if you look at my team right now, like, there's just like 2 that stand out, and like there's like 2 obvious ones that stand out that equal exactly 30, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity to be able to Z both of them, because like normal in literally any other league, barring barring my home league PDL, because we handle Z crystals a little bit differently, but like in any other competitive league, these 2 would, if they were on the same team, would absolutely be fighting over the Z crystal. But with 30 Z points, I was able to Z both Tornadus Therian and Hydreigon, and that is honestly just insane in my opinion. Both of their offensive move pools are huge. Honestly, that's mostly what they're going to be used for. As like, to my knowledge, I don't think either of them get any insane support Z moves, other than like Torn-T getting Z like weather moves, but Torn-T's speed is already extremely high. It doesn't need another speed boost. Honestly, if Hydreigon gets, I don't know if it gets Sunny Day or Rain Dance, but that one might actually be legit on on a Hydreigon set. But yeah, anyway, like they're 2 pretty common Zmons, and they're both really good Zmons, so I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to Z both of them. And I think, in my opinion, doing that would be better than like trying to Z like Magmortar, Muck, and Diancie all together, or something dumb like that. Like, that's just like, they're not good Z users. Like, Magmortar, I think, is a good Z user, but like Muck and Diancie don't really want Z crystals, especially not in draft format anyways. Like, I would much rather have like 2 good Z users rather than like 1 good one and then 3 others, just because like I can have 4 Z users. The quality of the Z user is much better. So anyways, yeah, not too much to say about the Z users, because like those 2 are pretty obvious ones. And yeah, so that is the draft analysis. Let me know what you guys think of the team down in the comments section below. The schedule has not been released yet, but so I don't know who I play in week 1, but whenever you're seeing this video, assume that week 1 battles, well, I guess it's not upload required. Okay, well, I will be posting the first team builder a week from when this video goes up. So yeah, keep your eye on the channel for the first team builder of the UPA D-League, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.